As many Americans rush to the defense of TikTok, it's clear that we don't get China. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The internet bleeds red like communists. TikTokers were absolutely outraged and in tears as their favorite Chinese app went dark earlier this week. For like 5 minutes. But what a peaceful 5 minutes it was. Thanks to Trump, it only went dark for less than 24 hours. But it showed TikTok would rather shut down in the US than divest from Chinese ownership. As you've probably heard by now, millions of American TikTok refugees flocked to another Chinese app, Xiaohongshu, also known as Red Note. It's pretty much a Chinese knockoff of Instagram, a lifestyle app aimed at upper middle class Chinese women. It clearly didn't register to many that Xiaohongshu literally means little red book, like the books Chinese leader Mao Zedong used to promote communist propaganda and horrible policies. After the ban, Xiaohongshu became the most downloaded app in the Apple App Store. So this begs the question, out of the hundreds of available social apps all over the world, why are English-speaking Americans going here? It's not like Xiaohongshu even has an English version. As a matter of fact, Xiaohongshu is scrambling to get English-speaking content moderators, aka censors, to keep up with the massive traffic. It seems there's one big reason people went over to Xiaohongshu. Out of spite against the US government, especially among those creators who relied on TikTok as a source of income. And because people are most familiar with their own country, government, and laws, it's easier for them to criticize their own leadership. Now, some people went on Red Note in their minds to troll the US government.
Bet your bottom dollar I went over the Red Note and signed right on up. There is nothing that I hate more than the government trying to tell me what I can and cannot do.
Look, I completely get not trusting the US government. I remember the whole WMDs thing. This is shooting yourself in the foot. But others think the real reason the US government is banning TikTok isn't about Chinese data collection and political warfare. It's for something much more nefarious.
America wants us to be poor. No, they want to compete with TikTok, but they're not going to monetize like that. They want us to be so tired at our 9-to-5s, at our 70+ hour week jobs, at our 2 jobs, at our 3 jobs. They want us to be so tired that we don't have any time to pay attention to what they're talking about in Congress.
They were afraid that people were waking up and sharing their opinions and the facts about what was happening in Is Not Real in Palestine on this app, and they're like, we need to control this. We need to get this app out of their hands because they are figuring out that we are the problem.
Yes, TikTok is the only place to get the truth about Israel. You post on X. But it's not just morons rushing to the defense of TikTok. Libertarian Senator Rand Paul went so far as to join TikTok just to make a point that he doesn't like being told what to do. Sure, it totally makes sense to let an authoritarian regime suppress free speech and weaponize data at its own pleasure. That has liberty written all over it. What's especially concerning is that there are people out there saying that things in China aren't as bad as critics make it out to be.
Here's the thing. They can afford lots of food. They have affordable cars. Their roads are better than ours.
China has public school for college. Guess how much it is? Wrong. $650 American per year.
Y'all, the corn over here is 5 times more expensive than over there.
Their utilities and bills, groceries on average, is vastly cheaper.
Yes, China is great. That's why all their rich elite want to move to America. Clearly, they want to move to America because TikTok is banned in China, and everyone loves TikTok. Also, China is dirt poor. 900 million people make less than $300 a month. But if you only look at the glittery skyline of Shanghai, you might think the Chinese are now doing our stuff better than we can do it ourselves. There are tons of other very interesting takes with absolutely no basis in reality that people are sharing online.
What do you mean? That people in China work one job and they don't even work 40 hours and they can easily afford their life?
Wait a second, you can walk at night outside and not be afraid? There's no mass unalivings in schools? What? What's that like?
The red note has actually shown us more about China and its government than we ever expected. First off, China is not a communist state.
And that's what it looks like to believe in the propaganda. These people clearly don't pay attention to Chinese affairs, like my twin brother Chris Chappell over at China Uncensored. Also, how can you say the Chinese Communist Party isn't communist? That'd be like saying they don't sell burgers at Burger King. It's in the name. Aside from problems with the job market and economy, Chinese people actually do have their own mass killing problems. Clearly, there's a side to China that's not nearly as glamorous as people make it out to be. So are Americans really that clueless about how China works? It's hard to say who's pumping out more of the pro-China content we're seeing these days, propagandists or gullible netizens. But I wouldn't be surprised if much of it is from the latter. According to the Pew Research Center, about half of TikTok users say they regularly get news on the site. And many of them seem to be treating TikTok as some fountain of knowledge.
We're losing, a platform where we learned so much.
I know it sounds dramatic to say I don't know what I'm going to do without TikTok, but bro, I really don't know who I'm going to be without TikTok, because a large part of who I have become in the last 6 years and a large part of my growth has come from a lot of the stuff I've learned off of this app.
No, I'm not against getting information from social media. I do it myself. Heck, I've made a living off of it. So I can understand the frustration. I'm not a hypocritical monster lacking self-awareness like the CCP. But I also fact-check and verify what I see and use common sense before coming to conclusions. The problem is, people are taking way too many things at face value, whether on TikTok, Xiaohongshu, or whatever app they're using. Seriously, has it not crossed people's minds that what they see on TikTok or Xiaohongshu is heavily curated to make China look good? That's how those apps work. But even in Chinese social media, you can tell that there are a lot of problems if you just look closely enough. Not that it'll register with many Americans. People like to think they know better because of what they see on social media, but can't they see how TikTok's algorithms are literally designed to brainwash users? The people calling others sheep are just parrots, repeating what they heard someone else say. Look no further than how TikTok overwhelmingly promotes pro-Palestine content over pro-Israel content, which in turn has a hand in making young Americans more pro-Palestine. Or maybe it's just because these American TikTok users are against a group of people anywhere on earth being systematically wiped out, culture and all. That's why they're talking so much about the current genocide against the Uyghurs by the CCP. Yeah, just as much outcry. Then there's how TikTok unleashed users against US lawmakers to put a stop to the ban, which only just proved the point to lawmakers that TikTok can be politically weaponized to do China's bidding. Even the whole concern about free speech is manufactured by the CCP to get Americans to defend TikTok. TikTokers weren't calling for free speech when Trump got banned on Twitter and Facebook, or when Parler got taken down, or when InfoWars got nuked. And most importantly, as with all social media, TikTok does not make people smarter at all. Look no further than how US military personnel think it's a great idea to post footage of themselves near US military vehicles on Xiaohongshu, or even inside them. How about while on active duty? Think of all the intelligence China can gather from clips like these, like the identities of those caught on screen, their locations, and their vehicles. What on earth was going on in these people's heads? Are they that clueless about the real threat China poses? Actually, they probably are. The people I've spoken to say there's basically no training about the dangers of the CCP in the military. And that goes for all of American society. People need to get it into their heads that China is already at war with the US and that it uses everything from algorithms, culture, soft power, you name it, to influence perceptions and behavior for its own ends. And unfortunately, not even the US government is taking China as seriously of a threat as it should, unlike what many TikTok-addicted influencers would have you believe. You know, Americans once cracked down on Soviet-funded propaganda. Heck, when I was growing up, you were considered un-American and shunned if you picked Zangief over Guile in Street Fighter II. But many now want to hold on to Chinese platforms for propaganda and surveillance. You don't have to like the US government to realize that running into the arms of an authoritarian regime like China's is not the right move. If Only Americans watched my twin brother's channel, China Uncensored. Please like and subscribe. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of China, in my ongoing attempt to talk about things YouTube considers too controversial by hiding them in gaming content, check out this episode about Marvel Rivals and how China has a lot of control over the video game industry. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.